Hello ladies and gentlemen, today we are reviewing the Dodge Ram Limited. And in this video today you're going to find out the overview, the price, the interior, the exterior and the performance of this vehicle. Now trucks have to be really useful. The Dodge Ram Limited has something really useful which I really like. Press this button here, opens up a separate spot. Inside you have a massive space called the Ram Box. I love how the name is. Put things inside here, but what's more important is about the special switch here. This switch, plug it in, plug a laptop, plug a light externally is in perfect location because you can move it from anywhere outside of here. And most trucks have it in the inside, which is very difficult to leave doors open. And when you're camping outside, insects and stuff can go inside. We don't want any insects inside the car. I'm insect afraid. Yeah, the Ram has a specific soft top on top. This doesn't allow air to come inside and cause disefficiencies of air, but as well as keeps your stuff protected inside so that stuff doesn't flow out. And back down here, the Ram, which I love about, has silver tip exhaust. To make sure you know you're driving the limited edition, you have silver tips on the side. But if you're short, not like me, there's something else as well. Stand on this, if I can get it out, get on top, and you're able to access everything you want inside. I'm pretty heavy, so talk about strength, it is pretty strong. Let's say you've gone on a family grocery to pick all the groceries up for the month. First thing, you have soft closing, which doesn't need you to hold and drop it before it drops down. The second thing is, there's a divider inside. So your groceries and stuff don't move around, slushing back and forth, ruining, making sure all the milk and eggs have come out and makes a pancake of itself inside. That does not happen. Now the Ram has 20-inch wheels. There are some cons and there are some pros. Definitely really good looking, especially with the red paint up here. But when off-roading, they can cause a puncture because of these sharp rocks. Small thread can just go through it and puncture your tires, leaving you stranded in the mountain. Whenever you're filling your tires up and you're decreasing the air, getting them out for any reason, the desert, let's say the mountains, wherever it is you need to get extra surface area, filling them up, you don't have to go back to the car to check if you're 35 psi or 40. The car automatically puts the hazard lights on and gives you a honk to tell you the air is filled, which I think is pretty splendid. The Ram Limited has a V8 HEMI 5.7 litre. I mean, everybody loves a HEMI, which makes 395 brake horsepower and 400 pound-newton-meters of torque.
It has 410
pound-feet
foot-pound of torque.
Foot-pound of torque, yeah.
But a newton-meter, that translates to about 550-ish.
One thing that makes this car a bit different, the most striking, it has something called an eTorque. I'll let Ahmed explain that. Ahmed, what's an eTorque?
Yeah, so eTorque, it might sound more than what it is. It might sound like it's something that adds more power and more torque to the car, but really isn't. So essentially it's a hardware replacement for the alternator. So instead of the normal alternator, they give you a larger unit that produces more electricity. That essentially gives you more charge for all the electrical things that you have in the cabin. Adding to that, the car also has the classic automatic 8-speed transmission that we find in all of FCA's cars, well, at least most of them. It's a pretty good transmission, and it helps a lot with fuel economy, especially on the highway.
But I don't know, does it really help fuel economy? Do you think it does? I mean, it drinks a lot of fuel.
It does, but here's the tricky thing about these engines. They have what they call active fuel management.
Yeah.
And that basically shuts off 4 of the cylinders when you're on low throttle and on the highway. So that helps with fuel economy. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. The transmission also helps reduce the fuel consumption on the highway in that regard.
Yeah.
But then when you're obviously off-roading or doing like driving on low speeds or whatever, and where you're mostly actually pressing a lot of the throttle, that's when the active fuel management system does not function. Yeah. And that's where you have a functional V8, fully functional V8. That's when you see most of the fuel consumption increase.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Okay, right.
In terms of drivetrain, it's a conventional 4-wheel drive system. So it's a part-time 4-wheel drive. You have 2-wheel drive, the normal thing that we have. And then you have a bunch of options. You could switch to a 4-wheel high or a 4-wheel low. And if you're feeling a little bit confused, you can always press the 4-wheel auto, and that will let the car decide what option of 4-wheel drive it should go into depending on the terrain and depending on how you're driving. In terms of driving modes, like actual driving modes, and I mean like sport, eco, these kind of things, you don't have any of those. It's just sit in the car.
Which is kind of weird. I mean, in a truck, I expect to have buttons to pro everything. For towing, I mean, we do have a tow button. There is definitely a tow button, but there's no off-road button. There is no kickstand button, there's no any baja button, there's nothing of that sort, which you expect in the truck.
I mean,
So the car,
it's classic to be
it's
honest.
classic. It's very simple and very user-friendly. The car basically decides everything for you,
Yeah.
unless you want to choose a systematic suspension. And the suspension as well is really comfortable.
To me, yeah, the suspension is pretty comfortable. But
Yeah.
to me, this is how I like cars. I don't like them giving us a bunch of options and
Yeah.
like different modes and whatever. I like a car when I sit down, I can choose everything that I want. I can choose the 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive, whatever traction control I want to turn it on or off, and that's it. So I know how I can drive this car off the road.
I mean, I like cars which you have every single button for it, because you know what it, I guess, is a pilot thing. If you
Yeah.
have buttons for everything, you
Yeah.
like pressing everything. And you
Because
like
you're
to
new
use everything.
school. I'm old
Yeah.
school, that's why.
Yeah. He's old
And
school.
speaking about the old school bits, this is also one of the reasons why I like this screen over here. It's a recurring thing on this channel where we keep talking about cars that put all the controls into screens, menus under menus under menus, and this is why I like this screen. Very minimal. It gives you Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. They said, okay, we'll give you the screen with all the minimal bits that you need, but for the AC controls and the controls of things that you want them to be physical buttons, they give us physical buttons and knobs.
Bins, these in British we call them bins on the side.
Cup holders.
It's called bins.
Why do you call them bins?
We just call them bins.
Why? Bin is like trash can basically.
Call them bins.
No, I think you're confusing it. Maybe bins is the ones for the cigarette butts?
No.
Well, I'm sorry, England, but you need to fix your grammar. Sorry, your vocabulary.
Now, one of the things I love about the Ram myself is the interior. It makes you feel like you're in an SUV, not in a truck, which is kind of weird. Ahmed's driving right now, and Ahmed can tell you by his driving, it does not feel like a truck. It does feel like an SUV when you're turning around corner. Yes, there is a boat feeling to it,
Yeah.
but the suspension does a great job by pushing up the right side. Whenever one side goes down to a corner, jacks it up, make sure you're back in the corner as well, having much stability, and that feels really good. I suppose so. I'm being a passenger as well.
It feels pretty good to drive this car. I mean, first of all, it's quite a big car.
It is.
So,
It is.
So on the road, you have to be a little bit more careful than you are in other cars. You need to figure out the
Angles. Yeah.
of the car. I mean, you do feel the heaviness in the car, to be
Yeah.
honest.
It is.
Not
It is a massive truck.
dramatically.
It is a massive truck. So
It is. No, it's not a dramatic feeling. But then again, it's this kind of truck. When you buy it, you don't buy it so you can race it, right?
Yeah.
It's not about how fast it is.
It's about the
it-
things you can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, most of the things you're gonna do with it is towing, maybe
Yeah.
a little bit of off-roading. You're
Yeah.
gonna hold stuff. You're gonna use it for transportation.
Yeah.
So this is where you mostly need torque more
is.
than horsepower, and this is exactly what this engine gives you. But in terms of cornering and the way it drives overall, comfort-wise, it's pretty comfortable. Even though this specific car has the, if I'm not mistaken, the 20-inch wheels.
It does,
Which
yes.
means you have a thin tire profile.
Yeah.
You would think it'll take away from the comfort, but it's actually doing a pretty decent job. But I think mostly that job is being done by the suspension, not the tires as well.
And the suspension is really doing really well. I mean, we went over a few bumps and everything else. It just sucks it up. It really sucks it up.
Yeah. And the
with these-
seats do help as well.
Exactly.
Don't forget
yeah.
about that.
It's really, and the best thing about the Ram is the size. You're on the road, people know you're driving a Dodge Ram. When you buy a truck, you buy it for size. And when you're behind someone wants to see you, you know, they're like, okay, we'll move out of the way, because it's a massive grille. It's a
Yeah.
massive front. It's a monstrous size.
So we switched sides now. Abdullah's driving. What are your initial thoughts of the car?
The car is extremely soft.
Yeah.
When you put your foot down, turn left, turn right, it's really soft. It's to your direction. You don't feel disconnected. I mean, obviously, a massive car, a big car, you feel disconnected with the road, but you put your foot down, you put your turn in the corner, you feel the car is connected with you. That's the main thing, you know?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, the thin tire profile does help.
And what I love the most is how soft the steering wheel is. Being a big car, it has one of the most softest steering wheel. With my finger, I can just change the lane.
Yeah.
Don't ever do that at home, but you can definitely change the lane with your fingers as well. So really comfortable, really good driving, and as well as when you're driving through, as we're driving Masafi right now, going up the mountains, down the mountains, let go of your foot, the car automatically lets the car coast.
Yeah.
So you have the best fuel economy. So it's not like it's always in gear. It lets you coast. So I'm not even touching the pedal, and the car is coasting itself. It's
pretty good, actually,
It's pretty
very.
good. It's pretty good how it puts everything else together. The driving height, the driving vision. Your vision is really well because you can see. I'm really tall, so I really lower my seat down. I can see ahead of the road. And I can see in front of the car as well, pretty well.
Yeah.
So big mirrors, a small mirror to see my blind spots, and that's really well done with Dodge how they put that together.
Yeah.
Driving wise, I'm really enjoying. I'm really comfortable how it drives.
It is. It's scary at first, maybe the first couple of minutes when you're driving it, because well, this is coming from a guy that drives a sports car most of the time.
Yeah.
So it is like a different atmosphere or a different vibe, but you get used to it in a couple of minutes actually.
Exactly.
But I want to talk about the interior actually. The interior is pretty good as well.
Yeah, it
The
is.
interior
It definitely is.
really good quality. So you got leathers all over the place.
Yep.
You got on the dashboard, in the center console, on the doors, and it's very good high quality leather. Like it's none of that cheap stuff, honestly.
And you
it's
can't
sticking all over
you
the
can't
place.
forget the Harman Kardon speakers.
Yeah.
Beautifully flushed to the door
Yeah,
are the
yeah,
Harman
yeah.
Kardon speakers. They're very well kept and they look so beautiful. Some speakers look terrible, but they have the best sound. These speakers sound amazing and they look beautiful as well. You want to know something else? If you're ever in a construction site and you need to do some calculations,
Oh yeah.
check this out.
Yeah, they give you like bunch of
Entire-
mathematics stuff and
Table of calculations you can basically see.
the table over here to convert from
Imperial
numbers or imperial measurements
Yeah, and that's the
to
thing.
metric measurements. So it helps pretty much.
Normally these type of massive cars, like especially the Dodge Ram, have important features like lane assist, because your slight movement can really move the car into a whole different lane.
Yeah,
The lane
honestly,
assist,
you're taking the whole lane with this
the whole lane with it, it's like a whale. So pushing it to the side a little bit, the car automatically pushes you back. I love this as well. If you don't want to use adaptive and you just want to use regular cruise, because I'm sure people hate the fact the car brakes itself.
Yes,
It
this is
has
the
a
best
second feature that allows you to use without adaptiveness. The car doesn't brake itself,
Yeah.
it doesn't accelerate itself. You can use the cruise manually itself.
And they're right next to each other, and this is
Exactly.
the best thing. You don't have to mess with any options in the menu.
A lot
or
of cars
anything.
have different fobs and buttons behind the wheel,
Yeah.
and you get very confused.
It's just right there.
It's right there to tell you that you can use adaptive and you can use the self-cruise automatically. So you have a choice of both. You're not losing out on one. Now, obviously, Ahmed loves conventional stuff. I really love technology. The car has something called a vision mirror, which allows you not just to see with the regular mirror.
Yeah.
You can flip it to the regular and you can flick it to the camera. Now, obviously, I think it's really good because you have a long back. So it's very difficult to see the back of the car.
Yeah,
so you have this
honestly.
camera on top that allows you just to see the back, and it's really, really clear, crystal clear.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, so even the night, day, you name it, it works really well.
Under the screen that you find in the middle that we already talked about,
Yeah.
under here you find a bunch of buttons. One of them is to control the ride height of the car, where you have 5 different height levels. And then you've got also the normal stuff that we know about, which is tow and haul button to switch between those two modes, plus the traction control button. And the parking sensors. These parking sensors for the front and the rear, you have immediate access to them. These have been working really well. So when you get really close to like a wall or a car or something, the car will automatically brake, be it if you're approaching something from the front or something from the rear, reversing into something. So it will actually work,
Yep.
and it's pretty good.
And we figured that out the hard way. You already felt it,
unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah, but it did work, so it did save us, so
Yeah.
that's good. Underneath that, we find 2 pockets in the center console. One is to put your phone, and the other one to put your phone and charge it wirelessly. And if you don't want to do that, you can use any of the 4 USB ports that they have over here. So you have 2 USB-A and 2 USB-C. All of them will function as your main connection with the screen if you have an Android or an iPhone, so you can activate Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And then we come to the big one, which is, well, before the big one,
Yeah.
we have big storage area, because it's an American car, it has to have big storage area. Above the screen itself, you have this small place for a cigarette lighter. And then next to it, there is a small tray, and that tray has a bunch of grooves.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is to put your phone on it and then it stays there, like, so it doesn't fall off or tip off or whatever. So it's pretty smart actually. They really thought about those small details.
Every small thing they've thought about it, so I really put it together.
The last 2 things we want to talk about is over here, above your head, you have a bunch of buttons that make you feel like a pilot.
Yeah.
But basically these control the panoramic sunroof, which opens all the way to the back of the cockpit. Overall, I really think this is a very good choice for anybody who is looking for a big truck, especially for like city usage and family as well. Obviously, if you want to haul some things as well, transport some things that are pretty heavy, and
let's say the right way. If you want to do some trucking, you can do some trucking, as they say in Americans.
Honestly, if you want to do some trucking apart from heavy off-roading, because again of the thin tire profile, they have the normal 1500, or you could opt in for the TRX if you've got the money for it.
Definitely for the TRX.
And as always, we want to hear your own opinions on the car. So let us know, what do you think about this truck? If it's a good choice, if it's a bad choice, what did you like about it? What did you hate about it? And don't forget to subscribe, leave a like, and we'll see you in the next episode.